Hold me now. I'm 6 feet from the edge and I'm thinking. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Put that X up in the air, right? X is going to give it to you, right? Hey, it's the BCX, the Brian Campbell Experience. And this is a non-regularly scheduled Wednesday at 4 p.m. edition of the Campbell's Rambles, the flagship part of this here YouTube experience that gives you the diary of a madman, the inner workings of my mind as I speak in circles. Hey, when it's Thursday, it's June 19th, it's 2025. And between this little vehicle and the Luke Thomas live chat to follow, what a time to be alive in the extended Morning Combat universe. I'm sure you can even go to Luke Nocita's main card minute, excuse me for that belch, and check out some good stuff there as well ahead of Baku. Okay, do you do? Will you? We'll find out about that. Shout out to everybody, Dixon Cider. That's our goal. The Ravioli King, BC. I don't know what that means, but I'll take it. All right, I'll take it. Hope the regulars are doing good in here. Marc-Antoine Berriot, my French-Canadian brethren. Morning wood and coffee with BC. What more can you ask for? Wow, that's pretty gross. All right, we'll leave that at that. Why are we here? Why are we now? Alan W's like, before we even start, I'm here to support this jam, and I appreciate that. Alan saying, some a bitch, why we not all up in your box this week? Yes, the BCX schedule, Alan Dubs, did get flipped upside down due to life. My kids are twin 17-year-old boys entering their senior year in high school, so college visiting season is ripe and red hot in the Campbell household. So yesterday we were in the should I say great state? The great state of Rhode Island. See, as a big brother neighbor to Rhode Island, I'm not sure I've ever considered it a great state. I'm not even sure I've ever considered it. But I do like me some Newport, Rhode Island. I do like some certain things. We hit a couple of schools yesterday. Good times, great oldies. The journey continues, but it did delay this week's schedule. No inside the box this week. I know. Look, I know. Okay. But you will get a morning combat tomorrow, 11 a.m. on the Eastern times on YouTube, a nice remote show. And you will get me right now for as long as you're willing to listen. Okay. That's what I'm saying. Is it morning? Is it afternoon? Depends where you are. Marc-Antoine's like, yo, I like these morning shows personally. Why? Because he's got that morning wood, apparently. All right. Hope you guys out there are doing well. All right. Shout out to the hardcores, 2 drink minimum. Smoke them if you got them. All right. Rah. Tip your waitresses. I don't know. I don't know where you guys are in your life today. Can you crack a cold one this early? I don't know. That's up to you. All right. But we're going to talk about combat sports, maybe a little bit about life. All right. Maybe a little bit about I got a new cell phone. Shout out to CBS Sports. I got the upgrade finally to the 15. All right. So I'm an adult now in these times. I mean, peep the Hendricks case. That's what I'm talking about. Old guys can have things they can be excited about. All right. Top of the day to you, Lazy Bed. Hope you're doing well over there. Shout out to JBR, the Just Blade Radio crew. Shout out to DJ Serenity. Now, all the folks here. We're gonna get a Michael Carson delivery here. Who else we got here? All right, Nocita maybe. Okay, Ethan Ross seeing me through the peephole in my MacBook camera. Shout out to you, Ethan. Welcome. Thank you very much. All right. Lazy Bed. That guitar hits different. Yeah. Shout out to that intro. Right, it does hit different over a wake and bake or a or pitching a tent like our fella over there. Enough of this ridiculi. We're going to talk about UFC Azerbaijan today. We're going to talk about Brian Norman Jr.'s KO of the Year contender this morning in Japan. Jaron to 154. Malignaggi's back on the bare knuckle. A lot of rumors. PBC, the ESPN. Good Lord, what's going on here? Is Top Rank going to get a TV deal? A lot to think about, a lot to chat about, a lot to ramble about. So thank you for joining. I'll ramble for like almost an hour. I think that's how this works. Then we'll go deep, balls deep into your questions. Yeah, Dixon, the rumor mill is churning. It's churning right now. The boxing broadcasting landscape, which has been aggressively changing since what? The fall of Showtime Sports at the end of 23. It's heating up once again. So we'll see where all that goes. Hopefully you guys aren't afraid of an after or more early morning coffee. All right, what do we got here? Remix under that that Conor McGregor throws more punches outside of MMA Baku. Yeah, Conor McGregor in the news again for throwing punches at a nightclub. Remember that time he was at the nightclub with the gloves on? What are we doing here? I don't know. But yeah. So hearing interesting things about a Top Rank streaming service. Yes, if you follow Rick Glazer's tweets, you can see that. What's the truth? Well, we are going to find out. But thank you, old man Dave. Appreciate it. The best damn intro in all of combat sports. Shout out to Anthony Weller on the guitar of Head Change. You know, that's what I'm talking about. That is what I'm talking about. So yeah, life's going good. Okay, I hope you guys can say the same about yourselves. Sometimes it's just about perspective, right? Because I used to live under the mindset that life was a constant roller coaster and we have good seasons inevitably followed by bad seasons. But what I found under that flawed mindset is I spent too much time during the good seasons trying to identify when the turn to the bad season was going to inevitably happen. And then, you know, the good season suddenly becomes mediocre to bad just in time for that bad season to come. That ain't how it works. Okay. It's like a train track, right? There's like there's the good and the bad flowing, right? One of those lines is on. You can get electrocuted, but the good and the bad goes all the time. It's how you perceive it, okay? So Tony Robbins is here. Thank you very much. Hope you guys are perceiving it well. One love, okay? Just like what's that chicken place that says that? Yeah, there we go. Raising Cane's. Still have never eaten there. They did put one in my town though. Okay. Big hit with the teenagers. There we go. So yeah, we're gonna talk about classic rock today, 90s NBA, mental health, whatever's on your agenda. But let's get into my agenda first. I don't think we'll get much else out of the BCX this week. We're pretty busy last week, trying to get more consistent, okay? Trying to hook up some cool interviews with people I like about topics that I think you will like. That old formula, still not stale, by the way, okay? Still gets it done. Yes, damn straight Serenity now, okay? Wiki spin that. That's what I'm saying, all right? Yes. Let's start. UFC Baku this weekend. First time in Azerbaijan. And look, are there fights that I care about for this fight night? But, a Saturday afternoon on the East Coast, by the way. Don't hate that. It's going to go down in Baku Crystal Hall. And, of course, we're fired up for the light heavyweight main event, Jamal Hill versus Khalil Roundtree Jr., former champion versus former title contender. Obviously, we're expecting bombs away. And look, up and down the card, there's probably some local fare. There's a lot of Wikipedia people without pages, and there's definitely some bangers and people I want to see, from Fiziev to Blades. And I know you don't look at this show, nor do I try to program it as a, politics first type deal. Luke's really good at that. Check out his Substack, right? Check out his Kyle Kulinski interview. If you get down, whichever side you're on. But there's political elements to this that are weird and gross. And maybe it's just because I'm getting more awakened to it. Maybe it's because I'm reading the MMA Draw, reading this new guy, Blake Avignon, reading Kareem Zidane, listening to John S. Nash. You know what I mean? But we are in the full swinging corporate raider, cutthroat government contract era of the TKO led UFC experience in 2025. But what are we doing here? Do we all have personal limits? Is it all just fights? Which pill are you taking? The blue one, says John Perry. Thank you very much. Do we care? Right? War crimes be damned, says Lazy Bed. Should we care? It's kind of hypocritical in some ways this week to be like, Azerbaijan, why are we going there? Who wants, what is going on, when every combat sport, not to mention certain elements of other mainstream sports, are so Saudi tied these days, or so, highest bidder tied, that if one person's doing it, why can't we all? But it's interesting that UFC is going there this week, really under the guise only of they paid the most money. That's our biggest customer, government contracts and domestic TV deals. That's how it works, not the fans. We know that. But, a Dick's Insider, it's that type of country. Yeah, I mean, it is. And, it seemingly is. If you hear the Armenians, which border Azerbaijan, in the genocidal accusations, when you read up enough and see where we're at here, during the same week when another Saudi Arabian journalist was killed by his own nation under the guise of Benedict Arnold terrorism trading type stuff? Or was it just a journalist who, under an assumed Twitter account name, was willing to float out their criticisms of his own country's bad track record and human rights violations? It's sort of like first documented one, I guess, since Khashoggi. And when Saudi first arrived in boxing, in MMA, a lot of us had to sort of say, are we in? Are we out? Are we going to give it a chance? Is the sports washing element sacrificing okay? Because on the flip side, we're getting Fury Usyk 1 and 2, and better Bivol 1 and 2 and 3. Or at some point, is it gross? Is this the direction we would want our favorite promoters to go into? We're in the midst right now of a war between, Iran and Israel, in an area directly where this pay-per-view is going to be on Saturday in Baku, or not pay-per-view, fight night card. And it's coming during a very heated time. Is flying over there safe? If you work for the UFC, if you're one of these journalists that's at every single UFC card, is that where you want to be? Is that where you should be? Doesn't matter. I mean, this is all mileage may vary, as Luke would say, for each of us users who are either when I say users, fans of a certain product, who are either into it, because we're addicted to gambling and we want fun entertainment on Saturday nights. But at some point, even me has to go, like, is there no... Kid Nate had a great piece on the MMA Draw this morning on this. Is there no shame? Is there no limit? Something to think about. I mean, would you ever want to go, if you're a journalist or fan, to countries that are showing you their hand? 5 days ago, another Saudi journalist killed. That's up to you. But in this already pre-established era where TKO couldn't give a damn about the fan, and in my opinion, really couldn't give a damn about the combat sports or genres, if you include WWE, that are under their umbrella, under their tent. They are trying to essentially, excuse my verbiage, rape and pillage their own sports that they're in to pull as much assets out of there as humanly possible. It's weird. In a lot of ways, it's gross. Can we still enjoy the fights? I guess we still can, but forgive me for pausing my legitimate, I wouldn't say excitement, my legitimate heavy interest in things like, will Jamal Hill bounce back from back-to-back high-level defeats? Will he bounce back from that weird media day yesterday where I thought the media, through translation, was asking decently legitimate questions to him, which he couldn't understand or felt was disrespected about? But yeah, it's kind of, we're getting gross here. Like if Saudi, for example, can justify killing journalists who are caught tweeting dissension or concerned countertakes, then who's a combat journalist in this mix that steps on their soil for a big event? I used to cringe / be like, you're crazy, when Luke in the beginning of the Saudi experience was like, yeah, I'm never setting foot on a plane. I'm never landing there. I'm like, come on. But I don't know now. I don't know. I know not everybody wants to hear it, right? Not everybody wants to hear it. Don't go there, BC. Don't go out. Yeah, I'm not going out there. I'm just not doing it. All right. I'm just not like, what's worth it more to me? My life? yeah, that's worth it more to me. Okay. My kids succeeding. And yeah, that is. So that's where we're at. Okay. That's where we're at. Bob, what do you mean claims of genocide, BC? The Armenian genocide was, yeah, I'm not trying to disrespect anybody. I'm just trying to present it as, yeah. Do the Armenians have a right to claim that? Yeah. I think I think history will show that they do. I'm just really not trying to get too into it, but also trying to raise concern and be like, even for myself, I'm walking this out, and this is what this chat is. It's me just rearranging the deck chairs of my own Titanic mind, right? Trying to understand the world for myself, and maybe by osmosis, you figure it out for yourself. But all right, there we go. Not everybody's going to care. 9:15 a.m. Who cares about these journalists? Look at the loaded box cards. Yeah, I guess that's where a lot of people land. And maybe when we're talking about Usyk Fury, better be Bivol, it is sort of a, that's maybe the only way this could have been made with this much money involved. So just enjoy it. And by the way, Saturday afternoon cards from another country, not that bad in comparison. It's just, as you know, my takes, when you take American boxers that are meant for the American boxing scene and you haphazardly throw them over there, I'm starting to have issues with that. What about when you put a decent fight night card over there? I mean, what's the difference between this and Tai Chi Palace, I guess, you know? Well, the difference is that place ain't never getting rewarded for what they were willing to do for the UFC. That's the difference, but whatever. Yeah, great question, Dixon. Where does Kevin Lee fit into all this? We'll have to wait for his PFL semifinal appearance right there. Mr. C sliding in. I lived in New Zealand for a year. It was mind-blowing seeing how many CCTV cameras are watching you. America is different, BC. Well, we could have those same CCTV cameras pretty soon. Connecticut just installed their first speeding cameras, and boy, did they make a killing on that. Different levels, different things, different reasons. But do I fear a police state with cameras everywhere? Yeah, but you know what I fear more than that? Countries that outright kill people for showing a certain level of is what you're doing on the up and up. But there we go. On this card, though, yes, I care. I care about that main event. We'll see. Hopefully it's a banger. Hopefully it puts somebody closer to title contention by somebody going in the other direction. That's what these fights are for. But Curtis Blade's back. It should be interesting here as he looks to match up with Rizvan Kuniev. We also have in that co-tilt Fiziev against Ignacio Bahamondes. Let the rhythm take you over on that one. Into that, there's certainly some B-side names here that aren't household names, but we will check out this card Saturday afternoon just the same. How about Hamdi Abdel Wahab in the curtain jerker there at heavyweight against brother of Kamaru, Mohammed Usman? That should be interesting there. All righty, there we go. I mean, pick your poison in combat. It's not like there's a history of people doing great things leading the cause. I guess you have to pick what is your definition of great things and what type of sins will you tolerate? Will we tolerate financial sins from promoters if we get the good fights? Probably. Will we will we tolerate this, that? I mean, will we tolerate the mob running boxing for a certain degree if it gives us what we want? What about when Don King was in control and constantly trying to screw his fighters while rebuild the sport in his, image or his benefit? Yeah, we've seen salacious characters. Do those same characters have a reputation of murder? Well, yeah, I guess Don King did too, and we all sat there. All right, ugh. It's just like what's next? UFC Fight Night? What? Tehran, Moscow? Like, is all money good money? I don't know. You're gonna have to figure that out for yourself. Okay. The indescribable Octoman says, wearing my Prince shirt. By the way, BC, are you talking about Prince Nassim Hamed or Prince Rogers Nelson, RIP? I'm not really sure. I'm rocking my Primetime Players shirt. Okay. You get down with that? You get down with that tag team back again? Probably not. All right. Old school shout out. There ain't nothing like a $3.99 shirt on the WWE shop when the shirt depicts wrestlers that were like 4 years removed from the promotion. That's the kind of stuff I get down with. That's just me, though. That's just me, okay? I mean, was there any killings? What meta, Project Zeb? What meta? I need to just have Mikey add that soundbite full time, right? I figured out how to do the screen share thing. Am I just a noob, right? Am I just a noob? What meta? There we go. I ain't going through that. Let's get into it. Let's keep the show going. There we go. Turkey's the best guy. No, yeah, he's great, right? Okay. He's got his own section of a prison named after him. You cool with that? All right, hey, as long as we get the fights, as long as we get the. Thank you. You going to the Waterbury Open this week? Thank you very much. Okay. All right. Let's have fun with this. Let's have it's BC time. Bobby Axelrod in the house. Is this the guy? Is this the guy who writes under that assumed name of Blake Avignon for MMA Draw, has his own Substack? This guy knows what he's talking about in the world of broadcasting deals and changes in the combat space. So check out Axe's Substack if you haven't. Good piece today on boxing promotional problems, the lack of successors, the kingship of these guys who are willing to go down with their own ship rather than set up the future. It's a timely topic with all of these aging boxing promoters fighting, scurrying to keep their control alive. There we go. There it is. All right. Yeah, let's go, Bobby. There we go. Turkey is a dictator, says Remix. Yeah, that's what Teofimo said, but there we go. Dick's Insider. I like when Turkey holds Dana's hands. Yeah, there is some level of hilarity within that, for as gross as it all is, but I'd love to see the inner dynamics of the interplay, right? If we're going to believe this aggressive reporting that we've seen, like from the likes of the MMA Draw, that Nick Khan needed to be called in the bullpen for this Bud versus Canelo fight to happen at Allegiant on Netflix with Dana in control. I'd love to have seen the drama of that behind the scene, but there we go. Brody Moret, guy we love in this space. Does he have an awful internet search history? Probably, but we support him. Did you see Brian Norman's KO? Is that why Boots moved up? That is my topics 2 and 3 mixed together. So why don't we, I was the king of as a kid. It's pretty gross though. Taking every liquid you had in the fridge and mixing it up and just trying it. I had to try it, right? I was that kid who would have the peanut butter and jelly sandwich, but then would put the Doritos, the pretzels, the slice of ham, the whatever else I can get. Sometimes though, you come up with great, sometimes you figure out that peanut butter and American cheese do go together perfectly. Other times it's an absolute debacle, right? Kind of like the 1984 David Lynch Dune, right? That we don't talk about because of what Denis did on the new ones. Okay. There we go. Brian Norman Jr. this morning delivered the boom in a big way, a knockout of the year contender to defend his welterweight title. And in a lot of ways with the simultaneous news of unified champion Jaron Boots Ennis, which I'll get into in a second, giving up his 2 titles at 147 to move up to 154. Bob Arum tweeted it this morning. You can make the argument that Brian Norman Jr. is showing you already at age 24, born in the year 2000, that how old are we, us old guys? How old are we that people that are born not even in the damn 90s? You know what I mean? I may be about to turn 47 and physically, but I'm damn near 22 mentally still. You got to believe that, okay? But Brian Norman Jr. went to Japan and fought 19-1-1 Jin Sasaki and delivered a 5th round KO via brutal check left hook that not only probably would have KO'd Sasaki anyway, but him hitting his back of his head on the canvas hard was a hell of a moment, a hell of a statement here. 24 years old is Norman. He goes by the Assassin. He's got a few other nicknames floating around. He's 28-0 with 22 KOs. And then in the world of boxing trash talk, for him to deliver that KO and then very subtly, very, very coolly deliver the rip without naming Ennis, just saying somebody got in there, put their boots on and ran away. That was a cold line, a cold delivery. But let's talk about that, as Brody asked. Yeah, shout out Conan O'Brien. You know what I'm talking about, Lazy Bed. How old are you guys? A lot of old people in here, right? Average Joe Art in here. 80s babies. That's what I'm talking about, okay? Born in the 70s, raised in the 80s, came of age in the 90s. Yeah, that means I'm old, all right? Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay. Yeah. Oh, yeah, and happy Juneteenth, by the way, to all those who are remembering history, celebrating L&W, bring it to the forefront. Indeed, right there. There seems to be a mix of Sandine coming in saying I turned 46 this year. So old man Dave, we assumed you were deep into your 50s, a veteran of street corners, but even Sandine's younger than me. That's wild. I mean, I'm older than Manny Pacquiao and I are the same age, and if he's getting back in the rings, and if Paulie Malignaggi is going to bare knuck at 44, what can I do at 47? Probably further this bad back that I'm developing. Anyway, it seems that there's a case to sort of say, why has Norman and Boots either not fought already, and why are we not setting up to that fight? And there was some that will say Norman turned down a window, an opportunity for big money when he had it. There's others that will say not necessarily an easy fight to make with both on separate networks, separate promoters, even though Mr. Gorbachev is starting to tear down that wall in boxing, right? Because, with turkey money, it seems like you can make almost any fight right now. I don't know if I necessarily want to get balls deep into who's to blame there, but I will say, I mean, it really was the fight to make. Two young American unbeaten welterweight stars, both champions. They could have unified for full control of the division. Not full, you'd have 3 of the 4 belts. The other title, the WBC, is around the waist of Mario Barrios. Will, exactly 1 month from now, Manny Pacquiao capture that belt? I guess you're going to have to tune in to PBC on Prime pay-per-view, July 19th. All right. Will you see me there? Hopefully. Anyway, if we're going to say the excuses, if we're going to say the reasoning behind Boots moving up, I did hear a recent podcast interview with him in which he said he talked to doctors. Remember, after his rematch with Karen Chukadzian, an unnecessary rematch that only needed to happen for him to hold on to the belt due to the sanctioning BS that we have here. Remember, Boots was like, I think I'm moving up to 54. He would come back one more time to unify against Stanio in his first sort of real fight, right? We've been waiting for a long ass time, but so has Boots to get in a real fight. And while you can look at the totality of his pro career, which is a lot of hype, but not a lot of results, I really don't think it's his fault. Maybe you can criticize the promoters he signed with at the time or what have you. There was that long running, hey, with him being a Showtime fighter a couple of years ago, but not being a PBC fighter, was that the reason why he wasn't given, let's say, a shot at the aging PBC welterweight names? We can debate that all we want. But I tell you, is that Ben the Bane Davis in this chat? All right. Is Bane really going to be on the MTV thing? Bane, I'm gonna DM you this thing. If you're around, jump on here. I got questions. If you've got answers, if not, go on with your day. Okay. Is this guy really going to be on the damn challenge? This guy's like, this guy's jumping into fight cages. He's jumping into bare knuckle pits. This guy's unbelievable. I'm going to DM you right now on Twitter. But if you're, if you ain't alive, it is what it is. There we go. So I understand when Boots ultimately says, we hope BC's on Amazon come July 19th. All right. When Boots says, look, I met with a doctor and they have discovered that I'm really only operating physically. And I don't know if this is accurate, but he's saying they looked at his physical, the blood. They looked at everything and they said, look, you might only be operating at 30 or 40% of what you are due to the weight cut at 147. I mean, it wasn't 30 or 40% in Boots when he went in there against Imanta Staniosis and looked like they were not remotely on the same levels. But I understand outgrowing a weight class. I don't understand the way Keyshawn Davis chose to handle his business in Norfolk. Another topic for another day, right? But I understand that. I don't think he's ducking per se, but it is ill-timed for the progression of the fights. Could he make it one more time at 47 and try to unify these belts against Norman before leaving? Or would it again, in his mind, be a half of himself? If he wants to be the best of himself, he wants to move up to 54. And if he's willing to take on all the big names, which that was never a problem with Boots. It was really where he was aligned and where the other fighters were. Then I personally don't look at this as a big duck on his side. I just think it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate right now. Is that the real Ben Davis? I don't know. We don't know. We don't really know. All right. I think he chimed in here too. Do we have a comment from this guy? Ben Davis, we love Campbell's Rambles. We love Ben the Bane, okay? That's what I'm talking about right there, all right? Whether we hear from him today or not, we love this fella. He's got balls the size of watermelons. Maybe he crazy. Probably he crazy. See, I never know, David, who's real. Was that the real guru that time? They said it was, okay? Hey, shout out to MMA Guru for sliding in that time. Do I think Brian Norman Jr. versus Boots could be one of the more fun fights you can make? Yes. Not going to happen right now. So let's focus on what we have. Unfortunately, losing Boots in an already thin welterweight division ain't great. But if we move Boots up there into that 54 title picture with guys like Fundora, Zoo, you know, champions like Murtazaliev, we're going to make some fun fights there. All is not lost. Will we eventually see Norman moving up there? We'll have to see. He's only 24 years old. But for now, this KO this morning of Sasaki, it was pretty impressive. He might be the class at age 24 of this division at the moment. I hope he can get as many big names, because you say, well, it may be cupboard may be empty or feel like it at 47, but all those stars at 35 who went up to 40, they're not ready to come to 47. Ryan Garcia is ready to fight at 147. Devin Haney's ready to fight at 147. Teofimo's always threatening to move up. Now a Brian Norman versus Devin Haney fight does seem pretty damn awesome. All right. Yep. Does seem pretty damn awesome. Solid plan. Yeah. Shout out to Sheldon Smith there. All right. You know, always hard. We're juggling different conversations here in the chat, in my head, in my mouth. Right. There we go. All right. Old man Dave, no super chat today. I lost my debit card at work. It happens. Support the chat if you want. If not, we're still chatting. Okay. We're still chatting. But shout out to all those people who slid in today's chat. You know, shout out to the celebrities like Ben the Bane Davis. Thank you. If that's the real man, he'll show up. He'll take my link, but we'll see what happens there. Maybe he's on the road. Maybe he's driving. All right. So, I'm intrigued. Let's see. Super chat here from Ethan Taggart. Appreciate you, fella. Thoughts on game 6 tonight. Also, what a shot by Norman. What a fantastic shot by Norman. Norman is fit, rugged, strong. I think, and you know, you always have to shout out the top rank matchmakers for their Hall of Fame excellence. I think he was brought up quickly, but efficiently here. You're starting to really see that full game come together. He's impressive. I love this guy. Game 6 tonight. I thought I was going to get in on this NBA Finals, even though it is 2 small markets, which you know the NBA hates, which always leads to those conspiracy theories of foul calling, right? Like, did the referees try to keep the Kings out of the 02 finals? Did the referees try to keep the 2000 Blazers out of the 00 finals to make sure Kobe and Shaq get in there, because Blazers versus Pacers at that point would have been a debacle. Maybe, but it didn't happen. I've been following the box scores. I haven't been watching, but game 6 tonight, I'm going to have to watch. I'm going to have to finally get in deep on this series, and then we can talk about it on an educated level. But thank you, Ethan. I'm cheering for SGA. I want to see if he can do it. I want to see if he can win the MVP in the full bloom of his breakout season. I know he's been a building star, but in his true breakout season, if he can take this over the top, that'd be impressive to see, even with my issues of today's NBA. Are we starting to believe here that hold on, we got, there we go. All right. Yeah, there we go. Are we starting to believe here that this Michael Jordan move to NBC Sports and these pre-recorded segments that he's going to start doing? You hear the other old timers saying MJ's going to bring it. He's going to talk the honest talk about what's wrong with today's game and why these players need to develop mid-range games and do anything but dunk and hit 3-pointers. My old ass is down for that. I mean, I sit in that chair and watch 90s NBA like it's going out of style. And in fact, it might be good. I think it is going out of style, but I'm right there with it. All right. There we go. One of the other things I want to talk about, shocked by this Paulie Malignaggi news at 44, right? Many years removed from not only the boxing ring, but that BKFC comeback he had against Artem Lobov, where yes, they robbed him on the scorecards. Let's never forget that. He's been doing Pro Box TV. He's been doing BKB, the Trigon bare knuckle, as announcers, as one of the best still to this day commentators in the game. All right. Jacob Alamo, you're not late to remind one more time how awesome that Brian Norman Jr. left hook was. I mean, I'd still favor Boots over him, but that's a freaking fight. That it's not going to happen yet, but that's a freaking fight. Brody's trying to say that Pro Box TV ain't paying Paulie enough. I heard Paulie's lengthy explanation. There's a few videos out there. He put out himself. He was on fighthype.com. Is this advised? No, it's never advised at 44, removed from the ring, to come back. And he's coming back, by the way, to BKB. He signed a 3-fight bare knuckle deal. It was interesting to hear his reasoning. And the reasoning was basically that, like a lot of fighters who were a couple years removed from it, the itch came back. He wasn't in good shape. He thought, let me try to get in good shape. And then the better he got in shape, the more like, I could be doing this started to happen to him. The more, as he said, the potential for crossover YouTube exhibition type fights where there's good money, but you're not going 12 hard rounds against a youngie, that it could be interesting. But Brody Moret just brought up something I was essentially building to right here. All right, BC, we would all watch Paulie versus Adrian Broner part 2. Don't deny it. We need Jessica back at the press conference. We do need Jessica. That was one of the 20, what was that, 15, 20, or 2013 Barclays Center. I mean, that was one of the most salacious builds we've ever seen, without question. It was fun. It was over the top. It was too much. It was great. If this is going to lead to old guy fun bare knuckle matchups while they're all still in their late 30s or early to mid 40s, I'm okay with this. Paulie's even talking about the idea of winning a title in BKB and adding that to his thing. So it feels like it's a guy who made the money, won the championships, already built the legacy, and is also just, maybe this is part of Pacquiao's comeback, just loves this damn game. Just loves, as Paulie said, having something to build up for. I think we can all agree with that. Getting in shape sucks, but if we've got something to build toward, whether it's just the high school reunion to make everyone's image of us not look like we're as fat as we are in real life, you all got to have that motivation at this age to put in that work. Maybe this is Paulie giving himself that. Is it hard when a guy who wasn't known for his power and who's known for breaking his hands all the damn time, and he broke his hand against Artem Lobov instantly in that fight? Is it hard to believe that bare knuckles the best way to go? It does, but this is interesting. It's almost as interesting as Ben the Bane Davis joining MTV's The Challenge. I mean, this is insane. I wanted to talk to him about it. I hope. We'll see if he responds there. Wild stuff. All right. Wild stuff. Back to Jacob quick. He's a topic behind, but we still like him. I still favor Boots too, but I wouldn't be surprised if Norman G. Yeah, that's because it's a real damn fight between two young, hungry studs. And I do love, I mean, for all we talking about that right now, if you pause boxing right now, BC, you love these 4 princes, these 6 kings, whatever we're talking this era, the horsemen, what are we talking about these? But, could we make the argument that they're cursed or that they ain't the real? They were never going to be the real. Every single one of them sort of got their own problems right now. It's also part of the arc. And to some degree, it's also what happens when you have a refreshing cyclical event where like sports usually is, where now we're coming back to this era of young fighters, these millennials wanting it right now. And I like that we've had a few of those. I like the ambition. You're going to take losses. You're going to take setbacks when you have that ambition. So that's why I'm not panicking in this case, but there we go. Brody, BC 154 is the most stacked division right now in all combat sports. We need a tournament. It's an aggressive take, but it's up there. Boxing at 154 is very good. You could easily put out a very fun tournament, combining powers. Will the powers combine? That leads us, so to close on Paulie, I don't want him to get hurt. But if he wants to make a little bit of cash, if he still has that same thing me at 46 and 9/10 have, where I go, man, I retired from competitive basketball this year. But maybe I got 1 year left in me as I try to avoid that big injury that'll put me on crutches for 3 months, right? Like, maybe that's what it is. But if we get Broner out of that, if he can, ill-advised, but I like the Paulie experience, by the way. So I liked working with him, to be fair. I feel it took a bit for him to respect me. I feel like that's the history of my entire broadcasting career. But I feel like one time at that Fury Wilder 1 weigh-in, when the desk for Showtime was Moro, me, and Paulie, I think I won him that day with my shtick. ever since then, we've been great. But Paulie's always been accommodating and giving interviews. And I thought when he was at his true broadcasting peak at the tail end of his fighting career that he did some of the best fighter analyst work in boxing on air that we've seen. Him, ESPN version of Andre Ward, like there's been a few of them. All right. A lot of topics going on at once here. Axe is back at it. BC, let's talk PBC and where they're going next for their media platform. You think ESPN would pay PBC? That seems to be the deal, Axe, of this rumor mill with it is could PBC replace Top Rank on ESPN? Would it be a potentially good enough deal financially, like where it's some huge upgrade, where this could be the new home of anti-Turkey TKO American boxing? And you're hearing extended rumors of if PBC can go there, maybe with some, there's rumors of a big investor. Maybe this could be Oscar, Bob, and Al going to ESPN and compete, creating a new HBO of 1999 and having this, we went to the era, which I don't think was a positive one over the last decade plus, of promoters signing exclusive deals with different networks, which lowered it played into deeper the segregation of the sport. It played into more of the parity in terms of the matchmaking of squash matches or stay busy matches. But I'd like to get to the reverse, which is to get back to the old HBO Showtime model of we'll pay to whoever can produce us. You'll have your favorite promoters to some degree, but if you got a fighter and we can make a big fight, we're gonna offer that money and we'll put it on that network agnostically. I'd like to see a return to that, but specifically asked about the PBC. I definitely don't have inside takes I can share on this one. I'm certainly connected to some degree to the PBC broadcast, so I don't want to get in the way of anything they're working on there. But if the rumors are true that the prime era of PBC, could be coming to an end soon, is this a pivot that could be great for boxing? In my opinion, without question. If ESPN could essentially, slowly build into becoming that home, that the rebellion, right, against the, I don't want to say the evil empire of Turkey and TKO and Zuffa and Dana, but in some degrees I am saying that right there. We will certainly see what happens, but I think first and foremost, ESPN's, decision to not exit the boxing game after Top Rank is this is good. This is great for the sport. There's a big turn here, because now you have, in the ever-changing landscape game, of cable to streaming. But what do I always say was, in my opinion, Turkey's biggest mistake? Going all in with DAZN, which, you're not, no one's flipping through DAZN that isn't a boxing fan, right? Like that's the whole point, at least in the States. You're not growing the sport that way. For what's left of cable and packages, and look, there are people that only know cable. They can't deal with streaming. They're going to age out and die eventually. But these are the years when those people are watching TV. You know what I'm saying? There's still a world there. ESPN is probably the strongest bet we have. Short of Netflix putting more than just big events on, right? Netflix is the new reach. They're the leaders in that regard. But short of people bringing it back to big primetime TV, going on ESPN these days for American boxing, and maybe an attempt to rebuild that. But there's other wild cards in this that still haven't been decided. Where's TKO or Zuffa boxing going to go? What if that ends up on ESPN? What if it, and there's been great pieces by Axe, by Zach Arnold, by, John Nash, but talking about this. And is that, is there a potential that could boost the UFC's return to ESPN under some combined deal where it's like, put on the Zuffa boxing as well? What does that mean for American boxing? Well, if Turkey and Zuffa become the face of American boxing and maybe stop putting as many fights over there, it still could work that day, but it still could work at the end of the day. But right now, Zuffa boxing doesn't have any fighters. Now, if they bought out a big promotion, yeah, that's a power move in the direction of bridging the gap between their two business models. The one business model being they want to put on really big fights with Turkey's money, especially on Netflix if they can get the deal. And the other avenue is let's rebuild the sport with a new prospect system under the UFC model. And yeah, we'll definitely control the purse strings here. I think it's more healthy for me selfishly and for the American boxing model if the established remaining promoters, either through pooling together or what have you, could be on an ESPN right now. I think you need competition in this space. I think the biggest fear, if you're not all in on Zuffa boxing, is the whole buffet on a cruise line. It's really fun the first couple days, all these stations, all these different ethnic foods, and I can eat as much as I want. But by like day 4.5, you're starting to realize that everything on that ship tastes the same. It's all made by the same people. So if you got issue with it, it doesn't matter if you're at the steakhouse or you're at the damn Windjammer on the Royal Caribbean ship and eating mozzarella sticks. It all tastes the same at the end. I don't think there's anything good for fighters, fans, or the American health, if you care about it, of these beloved fight sports, if a TKO complete 3-sport monopsony takes over, or 4 sports if we're adding grappling, and 5 if we're talking about that Shiat right there, right? I think it's much better like the great late 90s Monday Night Wars between WCW and WWFE, that competition fueling it. When was the last time we had that in boxing? I mean, I think you can really always, and I always bring it up, you always have to look at 2013 when the power shifted, when Al Heyman brought everybody from HBO and brought them over to Showtime. I think not only was that the changing of the guard from HBO being the respected North American leader to Showtime, but that created at least a full year of intense competition. I remember like Showtime was out of dates at the end of 13, but they're like, yeah, we're going to find a spot for a non-pay-per-view Adrian Broner versus Maidana fight. Like that was how hot that was. So let's get back to that. All right, let's build an American power. Trying to get these exclusive independent deals with each promoter lining up their own network deal, that doesn't produce health for the sport. Those offers, as we're seeing, are not there anymore. Where will Top Rank go? I don't know. You hear the rumors about their own streaming service as a temporary bridge to get to wherever they're going to go. When their ESPN deal does end, at the end of July, could they have people on the hook on the horn ready to sign on that are big names? Bob Arum did give an interview in the last 24 hours where he said there's a few suitors. Okay, you're going to find out when he can renounce the news. You're going to find out. I don't think they're going to fall away and be done. But they're going to have to make a change here. So it'd be great if these powers could join together for their own health, for the health of the sport. American boxing's taking a massive hit from Riyadh season. A massive hit to the buzz, to the connectivity, to all of that. And we're still going to, we're still talking about putting Haney and Teo over there. Like, enough of the over there, unless it's got to be over there. These don't have to be over there anymore. All right. I'm talking in a long circle without your input here. This is what this devolves into. All right, here we go. So we got that going on. There's a lot of unknown. I'm just as into it and excited as anyone else is to see where this goes. But as of right now, I mean, I can't share all that I know, but I don't know. I really don't know where we're going. I really don't know who's going to win out. It is exciting. Call me. I'll call your fights, all right? Unless you're a dictator. There we go. Hold on. I got to find this air conditioner remote control, all right? Entertain yourselves if it's even remotely entertaining. To an interstitial. Thank you so much. Heard Keith Thurman was going to be here. Sounded boring. Found the man. Still sounded boring. Yeah. Didn't find the air conditioning control. Still boring. Got it. All right. Thank you for that delay there. We're back. We're cool. We're ready to go. Okay. Lazy bed. I'm more of a dick yam than a dictator. Okay. Where are we going with that? Brody, BC, did you hear what Terence Crawford did with Side Chick? No wonder bro needs this Canelo money so bad. I mean, I'm certainly not going to pull a full Luke Thomas and be like, I don't care about the personal lives of these guys. This was a topic that got a lot of play because it was Bud Crawford on the Shannon Sharp, very well popular podcast. And yes, he did admit that despite being in a relationship with his longtime partner who produced 6 of his children, I think, that there was one out of wedlock in the last year plus, and he had to break that news. And I think he gave a things happen to a man type of response. I mean, Bud's living a different life than me, for better or worse, probably the latter. It was interesting to me, not that people gravitated toward this. To me, whether it is boxing or MMA, this is part of it. This is part of the reality TV fun, if you will, of covering and watching these sports, right? The ridiculousness of the personalities involved and how that extends to their private lives. It's not new, even if we are in the last couple of decades balls deep into the reality TV era of care on this level. It was the same level of care, whether it was Mike Tyson, Robin Givens back in the day. Maybe there wasn't as much detailed coverage, but yeah, I heard about it. I'm just surprised so many people are like, oh, Bud's going through it right now. There's this drama in his personal life. Canelo by KO. I don't know that we can say that. Not just because everybody's different in how they deal with negativity in relation to the performance of their particular craft. It goes back to what I say about going on the basketball court and maybe being low on talent in bigger games like I've been for most of my career, and finding that niche of dirty work, playing the Rodman, Kurt Rambis role. And sometimes that role extends to getting in the head of somebody who's better than you to make them worse off in this incident. Yeah, we're going to keep it between these lines. You might throw a punch between these lines, but I'm going to win this game at any cost. You got to be careful which people you do the hot foot to, okay? Because some people do. I mean, look at Floyd Mayweather. It feels as if, okay, I got the itchiest nose in America, and it ain't from those Conor McGregor reasons. I'll tell you that much. You know, Floyd was somebody that even with a looming jail sentence in 2012 ahead of the Cotto fight, he went in there and handled his business. It's as if he turns it up. That old adage of for a lot of these combat sports fighters who have only known life trauma and chaos, that for some reason between those ropes or in that cage is the most peaceful and in control of their lives they feel. Some are able to block that out. I don't think this affects this in this regard. I think it's the size difference, the fact that both are getting older, and can Bud's durability equal the balls that we know he's going to bring in there? And will his punching power have an impact? All right. There we go. Dixon, poor BC suffering from Colombian allergies. Yeah, that's what you would guess, but it really is just, you ever get that spot in here that's just, it is just so bad. And then your wife's like, why are you picking your nose? I'm like, I got an itch that won't go away. All right. I got a need for speed. No, not through the nose speed. I'm just, there we go. All right. We're through with me talking in circles about my own topics. We should probably talk about yours. So the floor's now open. Get your questions in. Super chats are not expected, but appreciated. Thank you. Thank you. Brody saying Floyd Mayweather got a lot of chigs, but he never did drugs or drank. I respect that. He did smoke that fake weed on Showtime All Access that time. But yeah, no, I do respect through Floyd Mayweather's many steps in very different directions of extreme success to lawlessness, setbacks that a lot of pro athletes have had, but he's had a few major ones. I did certainly, and it plays into the respect I have for his longevity, his ability to prioritize his own longevity in the ring through the way he fights, even if it led to sometimes where people were like, this is boring. I keep getting talked into these big Mayweather fights when they're just defensive point fest. Well, I can appreciate the defensive point fest, but I can appreciate even more the fact that him and Hopkins during that era, Bernard Hopkins, really put it out there that you want to be great for a long ass time. The old model of getting drunk and fat and high between fights is not going to work. You got to live that lifestyle. And he certainly set a template on how to do that. Does it help when you have the mind that he has, the genetics as a second generation fighter with, very talented uncles just the same? Does that help? Or just the fact that his skills were on another level? And they damn right were. Okay, here we go. AZ Ray, my boy Arturo from London by way of Mexico, says, since you quoted Tom Cruise, are you going to watch the last Mission Impossible? I almost took the family. I know there's certain things that are going to make you crazy here in the BC experience. BC's about to tell you I haven't even seen a single Mission Impossible movie yet. But I almost saw the most recent one with the family. We ultimately chose a different flick. I really should just start at the beginning, shouldn't I? I did that during the pandemic with Fast and Furious, and it was fun. It really was. I know this is a different beast, but you can't hear it all, you can't see it all, you can't try it all. Apparently, I've been trying something though. What's going on right now? All right. I've been trying to spotlight questions I want to answer. We got a bunch of super chats rolling in. Brody Moret, BC, is Money for Nothing by Dire Straits one of the, I should have said this when Run Dem Cheeks last time asked me what were my favorite music videos of all time from the MTV era, of course. Money for Nothing by Dire Straits has to be in that top 5 for iconic, for amount of times I've seen it, for does the song match up to the video in very cool ways? Yes. But as Brody asked, is that the best homophobic song ever? It is shocking if you haven't heard in a while to go back and listen to those lyrics that we did accept in the 80s through the 90s, probably for a while as sort of like, oh yeah, that's just how some people speak in this life. Yes, it does have very homophobic parts of it, but an epic guitar riff. And I mean, it doesn't hold up, but I feel like most of the 80s doesn't hold up. And if you get what I'm saying here, I really feel like the 80s, like there wasn't a ton, in my opinion, that separated, the tail end of the 60s through the early to mid 70s from the standpoint of the art that was coming out, the music. Yeah, it evolved and it flowed, but it was still concept wise kind of built off the same thing. I think it was how aggressively music shifted in the 80s. Even successful acts from the previous eras that were looking to sustain that success had to buy into what was happening, which means we're getting out those synthesizers, baby. We're putting on the skinny ties. We're making awkward videos. And I think there's a lot of that, what came out of that you're just sort of like, we'll leave it there. It was important. It was good at the time, but to me, I'm like, we'll leave it there. I'll always say it. I don't think the 80s had to have the enduring music or important music that the second half of the 1960s, the entirety of the 1970s, and the middle portion of the 1990s had. That's just me, though. All right. Yeah. Lazy Bed, Bob Seger virtually calls himself trans in Turn the Page. Yeah, I mean, it was an accepted part of everyday speak. I mean, what was my favorite movie when I was a kid? 16 Candles by John Hughes. My parents used to do party tricks because my sister and I, at the ages of like 4, 5, and 6, would watch that on VHS like 3 times a day over the summer. Like, no lie. And then be able to quote the entire movie in order and any scene you wanted. Imagine using some of those long duck dong comments today in 2025. All right, there we go. Yeah. Great stuff. Steven's here. BC, will Bud get credit if he somehow outpoints Canelo being on his bike and making a boring fight? Yes, he will. Will the fight be maligned because of that? And even by extensions, like obviously, like don't fake it. There's a lot riding on Zuffa Boxing in this fight. A lot of pressure to come out and deliver, even in ways that go beyond their control. Meaning, not just does this dome have to look great, not just does this Netflix presentation have to be like next level. Who knows who they're going to pick for broadcasters? Will we get like a Max Kellerman return? Will Lampley be brought back? I mean, there's a lot of ways that they could start a new era here, fresh. But none of that, to some degree, does really matter if the fight's an absolute stinker. If it's an extreme negative fight, then yes, the just like Mayweather Pacquiao, which I don't think was extremely negative, but I can certainly concede that for that long of a buildup and a $100 price tag, even though companies I've worked for have greatly benefited from that, and even though I did enjoy the fight from what it taught us in Floyd's brilliance within it, no, it was a disappointment. It wasn't exciting. I mean, I do love this, though. I do love that Showtime, framed the ticket and sent it out to all the priority media members. You better believe that. I also loved that in the Showtime sports offices in New York, and I don't know if the room is even existing today, they had a conference room where the entire wallpaper all the way around was a shot of the crowd moments before Mayweather Pacquiao started. So I could always pick myself out in the media row because you're blown up. It's pretty cool experience. But no, that fight was more maligned afterwards. I think that Bud, any way Bud can do this, he's going to get the credit. He's moving up 3. I know he's moving up 2 weight classes. He's really moving up 3. Let's be very fair and honest. And it's not like he's 32. He's like 37 and a half. Okay. He's going to get the love, even if he chooses or is forced to go this way. Like if Canelo rocks him early and Bud goes, okay, plan A, no. Plan B of me getting on my bike and winning this the old fashioned way. I mean, It could suck the life out of it. It could just not be enough. Canelo can't be the Canelo of the Williams School fight. Canelo's got to be the Canelo of the Lara fight. If it goes that way, he's got to chase him down and make sure he leaves no doubt. There will be some intrigue in that. But let's let it play out. Outside of the political connections, is the Zuffa TKO takeover a real thing? Should we cheer against it? I'm cheering for this fight to be great because it is a super, super fight. It really is. Even if it's a little late or at a time when the buzz isn't as big as it could be, let's support it. It's a super ass fight. Mr. C, BC is great. LT focuses on super chats. For BC, super chats go to the back of the line. No, BC's just disorganized in how to use this thing. And I just sort of, you can ask me a topic that no one on this chat wants to hear, and I'll go a half hour on it, unfortunately. Okay, there we go. Screw you's back. He says, why people pretend that Canelo Crawford is not a mismatch. Alvarez had problems with movers even in his best days. Why people pretend that it's not a mismatch? This has 118, 110. Oh, so you're going the extreme, by the way. Reggie J here, by the way. Hold on. I had some people that reach out and say they were upset. Dude, you all right? That I've been blocking the door to keep this man out. This man is a superstar that needs to be experienced. Okay, Reginald J. There we go. He's back. You're going. I mean, look, I've seen people do it, and the timing makes sense. People are discounting Canelo, so not just that he could be upset, but to the level of like, I think he gets exposed or audited. Like, again, that's part of the intrigue that the opinions are all over the place. But I think it's definitely a result of that really flat performance against School, mixed in with the fact that Canelo has been less than inspiring in the last 3-4 fights. Not always fully his fault, but it's like when he's fighting a negative Charlo, should he have stepped it up to get him out of there? When he's, could he have finished Munguia? He admitted afterwards to carrying him. All right. He didn't get Berlanga out of there, but he wasn't giving you the matchups you wanted. I still don't know if that's enough to go as far as you're going, screw you, to the point of like, this is a mismatch. I mean, but maybe that's why this fight is so fun. Because if I told you the ending, all right, and thank you for the question. If I told you the ending was Canelo by KO in round 6, you'd go, yeah, I can see that. Maybe Bud has some moments, but weight classes are there for a reason. Canelo's not dead old. He still deliver. But what if I told you? Do I sound like ESPN 30 for 30? What if I told you that even at his age, Bud Crawford could do the opposite? Even at his age, Bud Crawford could blank that fella. Blank is a hard thing with this size mismatch, but I guess it's possible. These are great, all-time great fighters, like all-time great fighters. That means that anything's possible. I hope for boxing it's not a dud. I really do. Even beyond the Dana element, I hope it's not a dud. All right. All right, let's get into some of these super chats. Let's get super excited about them, okay? Cosmo Kramer coming in here to support the show. Maybe he's a big Reginald J fan. Reggie, do you want the full experience here? Okay. Happy Juneteenth to you, Cosmo. Cooking T-bones and drinking mules. Not bad. Not bad right now for 12:03 p.m. Eastern time, okay? I don't know where you're coming from, but not bad. Enjoy it. Enjoy it, definitely. Lazy Bed, thank you, Lazy Bed, for supporting me. How do we get your ass calling some regional MMA? It's interesting. It's funny. Like, I certainly don't feel like I'd be qualified in some of the roles for sure. Could I do ringside reporting in MMA? Yeah, I think without question. Could I fake it till I make it as a third guy in the booth, presenting storylines like I do in boxing and mixing in analysis? Sure. It'd be less received, probably be less confident. I mean, play-by-play would intrigue me, by the way, just like it intrigues me in boxing. But I don't think it's going to happen because my stated goal, the work I've put in, is in boxing broadcasting, and I do feel like I'm on the verge of really breaking through, of really entering the best stretch of my entire career and doing super ass legitimate, the biggest fights possible. Yeah. And thank God I've been able to call this year some of the biggest fights possible on the pay-per-view level. And it's been the greatest thing that's ever happened to me career-wise. It's been absolutely insane. It's been everything. Okay. This is the dream. I'm living the dream. I just want more of that dream. All right. That's what it is. I respect this game. I want to be a part of the soundtrack of this game. Let's freaking go. Okay. I did reach out to PFL when they made big moves a couple of years ago to potentially see opportunities there, and they straight up ghosted me after some initial talk and setting up of times to meet. They straight up ghosted me. So I was like, yeah, maybe they aren't all that to, turns out I was right, by the way, but there you go. There you go. All right. We heard that one. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, real quick here from Lazy Bed. BC, you're going to read Mark Raymondi's MWO book. So I own it. I've been chipping away at it. Say hello to the bad guys. Mark Raymondi of ESPN.com, of course. How professional wrestling's new world order changed America. He's gotten great endorsements from the likes of Eric Bischoff. He sat down in Ariel's studio yesterday and gave a great hit. I'm reading it. It comes out in 5 days on June 24th, and I hope to interview Mark ahead of that. I got to reach out to him. So, Mark, thank you for adding me to this, what I've read so far. I love it. And it's really exciting times. One of my favorite topics, one of my favorite people in this game. All right, let's go. Let's go. Yeah, my guy Jay Allen's back at it. Okay, not Jay Aaron. All right, not Pennington James. What up, BCO? What up with you? Can you predict the last chapter of Francis Ngannou's fight career? Also, what would be your ideal finish? Are we talking fighting still on the last part of that? Or we, okay, it got weird. Thanks so much, Jay, for playing. There we go. There we go. Here's the deal. I saw, Eric Nixick believes, and he put it out there, that Francis wants a UFC comeback. The time is certainly ripe, as you saw the updates, I'm sure, of Dana White saying, we're going to give John Jones 2 weeks of a deadline to figure it out. But if he doesn't want this at the end of the day, we're going to move swiftly to the next direction. Okay, that's an unnecessary bite, right? The thing about this guy. Yeah, that's the thing about this guy. The biting is ill-timed. It makes no sense. It's always aggressive. Not as violent as Zoe. Zoe will get you down to the bone and then smile at you over it. Or I think Zoe's just secretly sadistic. He's Reggie. What are we going to do? I think him going to the Kamaru Usman fight, going to the weigh-in in the UFC cornerman jersey, even though he didn't corner him for the fight, supporting his friend. Was there meetings with TKO? There may have been. No one's reporting on it. I mean, there may have been. I feel like if he was persona non grata like we believe, he wouldn't have been allowed to be there. I agree with other people's take of that. All right. But I did see one of his other trainers. Okay, Reg, that is just aggressive behavior. I have seen Dewey Cooper be like, yeah, I don't think it'll happen. He even said, even though Francis's other coaches do, he doesn't believe it'll happen in the UFC. He believes it could only happen because of Francis's loyalty to PFL through some type of joint co-promotion. We know Dana doesn't do that. The real question is, does TKO do that? Okay. Dana wasn't going to do Mayweather McGregor either, but TKO pushed for it. If Dana's not as close to it anymore as we truly believe in terms of the decision-making, the contract negotiation, or even showing up on camera and answering questions, right? That's where we're at right now. I truly believe that it could be made. It really could. And that plays a big part in this question. It would be absolute. And what would make that happen? One, John Jones pulling the ultimate screw you on the UFC when they enabled him for just an insanely record amount of time after years of hating him, after John sitting out for 3 years because he couldn't get the money he felt he deserved. But then the second Francis goes away, they pull him right back in and they pay him to fight God. So, it's like, but back then he was a pariah. Now it's John Jones is number one, until it isn't anymore. If he breaks their heart like that, there is not anyone left. Okay, is there a couple people left for Aspinall to fight that we would be like, okay, that's an intriguing fight? Gon's intriguing, but if it comes in the place of Jones, it's a debacle. There's not much left for intriguing short of Poatan moving up or Prohatska or somebody like that and establishing themselves right away as a heavyweight. You're looking at one-offs there. So the need for Ngannou is real. Is it really that big of a deal at the end of the day to co-promote for one fight? To let this man walk out, since it's an ESPN's got contracts with both right now, walk out with a PFL belt, being called the PFL champion? Wouldn't that make this an even bigger fight? Or is there too much extra unnecessary things for the UFC attached to that? What if Ngannou wins? Does that mean PFL gets a win? Does that mean that will they have options on Ngannou if he wins to fight again? Would it be great if he won and then went back to the PFL? No, that would not be great. I think ideally here's what needs to happen. PFL's got to either die or Ngannou's journey with them needs to expire. And some argued, or John Nash has been saying, like, it might actually be. Is Francis extra loyal to them? Should he be extra loyal to them after he got the sweetheart deal of an absolute lifetime? And he negotiated that. Congratulations. You're only worth what you negotiate. And he got the largest pieces of pie that we've ever seen, right? Hair pie? Maybe not that, but hold on, I gotta close this door. One second. I think personally you need PF as much as I don't think they're going to do it. I don't think they're going to co-promote. So I'm thinking, I mean, it's like PFL might not even be on ESPN. They might not even be a thing anymore. I'm thinking he's got to be at the end of that. So it's certainly, as Lazy Bed would say, or Joe the Barber from across the street at my high school residence, how is sister doing? That's creepy, neighbor, but hey, I'll be back at your shop for a haircut. Thank you so much. So what does Francis's future look like without that fight is interesting, because look, PFL's not going in the right direction. We all well aware of this. If Francis gets out, and if TKO, not UFC, not Dana, if TKO, meaning Shapiro, Ari, the people that sign these checks and make these big decisions, if they're willing to say, hey, Dana, enough of your BS, enough of these one-sided wars with people where if they wrong you once, they're dead. Like you're the Saudi government killing journalists because they, dared to question you with a tweet. Imagine Ngannou fighting Aspinall, and win or lose, Ngannou staying in there and fighting the other names that he hasn't, had a chance to. That's probably the best way for this thing to end. It really is, because I don't think there's is Ngannou going to win the heavyweight championship in boxing? No. I think the Fury fight and the success Ngannou had is certainly a testament to him, but it was also the perfect storm of it. The fight being rushed, Fury not in shape, like everything that played into that. And Ngannou, yes, he had to land that quick left hook that he did to floor him and change that fight. But I think just Ngannou doing that, going in there not against scrubs, like going in there against arguably the two best heavyweights in the world, arguably, not involving Usyk, but arguably, and just showing the pride to put the performance he did against Fury. I mean, he got killed by Ngannou, but even to be in that fight, he made the money. He proved that it can be done. That the UFC ain't everything. No, they kind of are, but they ain't everything. There is if you're a one of one historically, and you can crawl through the Shawshank pipe, you can get to that finish line, and he got that. But I don't know what else there is in boxing, outside of a Wilder fight one-off or something that really matters, right? So the best way for this thing to end is to regain the UFC championship, or at least get into the UFC cage against a Tom Aspinall, a generational talent, or so we think, and do that. That'd be the best way for this thing to end, without question. Will he fight again in the PFL? I'm like, okay, maybe, but against who? It's been the same thing all along. So here we are. All right. LNW still supporting this chat, and we appreciate this international man of mystery. I mean, will he be on the show? No, he said he won't. He won't be on the show. And I guess Ben the Bane ain't showing up right now either. All right. There we go. Hold on. We got issues. My God, Amex Hamster was able to be swiped. It's like a 2 girls, 1 cup joke. Or is this a American Express advertising campaign? Okay. Thank you, Alan. I have no idea what the hell you're talking about. Thank you. So yeah, Jay, to close out, I predict that he gets there. I predict that Ngannou gets back to the UFC. The question is, will it be when it needs to happen the most, which is either John fighting Aspinall and then the winner facing Ngannou being the biggest fight you can make in heavyweight history, or John being John, UFC having no excuses for what they enabled him to do. It's their fault. It's all your fault. But is Ngannou the perfect antidote for that? Yes. But I think you gotta remove the PFL from that first. Thank you. Outside of that, I don't know. Maybe it's a boxing fight against Wilder. Maybe it's another PFL heavyweight fight that doesn't really mean much. I mean, the first one was fine against Fajeda, but it's like, are you going to fight again? Are they ever going to have a pay-per-view again? Are they going to make it out of this year? Is Hughes going to fight Nurmagomedov? Is Don Davis the right man? Okay, there we go. All right, Max Payne is here. Is BC a Megadeath enjoyer? I never have been, but I also never really went after it. Max Payne says, as a huge Metallica fan, I was for the longest time ignoring Megadeath. I can understand that. And Dave Mustaine, as there's some rivalry there due to a shared past. Yes, Mustaine being on the debut album, Kill 'Em All, and then him now, years later, essentially saying that they stole songs he wrote, blah, blah, blah. But Megadeth absolutely rocks. Yeah, some of my best friends are huge Megadeth fans and tried to get me into and kind of said the same thing. Look, there's a limit to my hard rock / heavy metal, I guess, interest or reach. I mean, I should go down the Tool rabbit hole aggressively. I understand that. I love me Sabbath, early Zeppelin, everything that came out of that. Where heavy metal was birthed in that, 1969, 1970, 1971 window. I pick and choose various times through the years, Metallica's catalog. And I'm not even a Black Album guy, even though I respect it. Right. But like, I'm an And Justice for All Master of Puppets guy. Even within that, I sort of feel like that's my limit here. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it'll be 5 years from now, I'll stumble into Megadeth like I've done countless bands, in my post-pandemic vinyl deep journey of like, wait, if you only listen to this band's 3 songs on the radio, you think one thing, but if you actually take the journey, you think another. It could happen. Is it likely Max Payne? No, it's really not. All right, there we go. Alan W. Thank you, Alan. Alan W. Thank you, sir. Even if sometimes I don't know what you're talking about. Pay that man his money. Pay that man his money. I mean, Reggie for his catnip. Dude, if you're supplying Reggie for more catnip, dude, this guy has not a surprise to you. Probably Reggie loves the crap out of catnip. Okay. Reggie goes ham and he becomes a psychotic individual. Yes. Even more than normal right here, as he just screamed at me after I said that. All right. Appreciate you, Alan. Thank you. This one's John Perry, BC. As an amateur boxing fan, am I a filthy casual for thinking Devin Haney is incredibly boring and overrated? His past 3 to 5 fights are so disappointing and makes me not want to tune into any boxing. All right, well, your latter reaction I wanted to say was a little harsh and aggressive, but I also watched that fight against Jose Ramirez and also felt like this incredibly talented individual just punted on his future commercial value at a time where he had no money in the bank, meaning people were so down on him for the performance against Garcia, even though he kept getting up, even though it was obvious, it seems to so many now, that he was fighting a dirty fighter. I don't like the way that Devin or Bill Haney has handled themselves PR wise, especially coming off of, who the hell's, especially coming off of a time he needed it most, a time that they needed to answer for that Ramirez performance in any way other than how Bill did, which is, that's what we intended to do. Wasn't it beautiful? No, it wasn't. And I'll give Showbiz the adult a lot of credit here. And I know not everybody loves everything he says. Is he a turkey homer? All this stuff. I had him on this show. On this channel. I loved chatting with him. He's very, very energetic, very, very knowledgeable, very passionate. But I like that Showbiz in the snippets that I saw had Bill on and took him to task and said, Bill, it was almost saying what you're saying, John Barry. Say, Bill, these last couple fights, there's not only no excuse for the safety you showed, and obviously we're not counting the Ryan fight. And I do give Devin credit for getting up, working his way back into that fight. That fight being a lot closer scorecard rise than people realize because of this fact. Devin showed real toughness in that fight. But Showbiz basically saying, Bill, you are holding your son back from being even greater by the manner in which you handle him and employ. And, you know, I mean, it's the fighter carrying out the game plan, and it's on the fighter at the end of the day. I'm not trying to give Bill that much credit, but he's the father, manager, trainer. So when you're all three roles at once, you have a deep influence. And I like that Showbiz was like, Bill, turn your camera back on. I want to see your face. I want to see your reaction to this question. And it was that, look, you should have stopped Regis Prograis when you were absolutely kicking his ass and dominating him. You should have walked down Jose Ramirez and made it look like Mayweather Gotti. Great point by Showbiz right there. You should be at this point a celebrity with critical respect on the level of what the real ones see. Am I a real one? In most categories, I try to believe I am in boxing. I've been the guy through these fights, through the years. It's been like, I know that last performance was boring, but I also know what Devin Haney has under the hood. And I know that, like, he could be number one pound for pound at the end of the day. Like, it's in there, even if we've got a little, if certain questions about his chin or does his power carry up. But yes, I'm broken after this Ramirez fight. Did I call Jose Ramirez Romero recently? I meant to say Ramirez. I'm broken too, just like you are, John Perry. Not to the level where it's makes me not want to tune in, but just to the level of, we were supposed to have these 4 princes or 5 or 6, like this generation. And in some ways, I feel like they're like we talked about earlier. There's unforced errors here. They're shooting themselves in the foot. They're losing all the recipes, as Michael Irvin would say. One of Rafe's favorite sound drops in the history of the show. Of this, the Rafe and I experiencing each other on a camera with a microphone. Brody's saying Devin Haney peaked too early. I mean, he had such a different background, you know, going to Mexico as a teenager and taking pro fights down there instead of a long amateur career. Playing the promoter agnostic sort of role of little contract here to get this fight or be on this network, then pivot here. But none of that matters truly to what you do in the ring. And of late, he's down. He's down bad. If this is who he's going to be, then he's going to be the villain the rest of the way. People are going to talk bad about him. People aren't going to be excited to see him. He's not going to make the money he's supposed to. You got to go out and get rid of the people that you're supposed to get rid of. Even if you are not a power puncher. Even if you're more of a Floyd at welterweight in that regard, right? Because the younger Floyd, even though he wasn't a huge power puncher, he got you the hell out of there when he needed to, when he was supposed to. I don't know what it is, man. Is it too much too soon? Is it getting too much control over the direction of their career too early when they're young and naturally sort of mercurial? But is the old model better when you get more seasoning and you get, forced to climb that ladder? I don't know. I think this is a case where there's a lot of talent there, and I feel like he should be so much better. I really do. And so much more confident, so much more dangerous, even if he's not a huge puncher, because you can win with a jab and being able to box and having smarts and balls. And I think he's got smarts. And I think to some degree he does have balls. We didn't use him. He didn't use him in the Ramirez fight. Mr. C, Ted Nugent makes me proud to be an American. Interesting take. Ted Nugent's kind of an asshole. I respect the game, though. I got some Man Boy Dukes records, all right? I didn't go down the Nuge vinyl rabbit hole yet. Will I ever? I don't know. I respect his game, but what a wild man that guy is, all right? There we go. Hey, Reg, you all right? Hey, Sleeto's here, okay? My good buddy Sleeto. All right. What do you got for me, Sleeto? BC, you are a fan of progressive psychedelic music. You're damn right. Especially at the intersection, right, of those two, because one in some ways became the other, right? In some ways, psychedelic evolved and kind of became progressive. But that's not fully true, because really the foundations of progressive rock is like almost like classical, almost like the true, you know, whereas the origins of psychedelic rock was more just counterculture, not just in the message, but to the way the instruments use, the sounds produced, the way it's been there. But what you're asking me, Sleeto, is please check out Shapongle. Silly name, incredible music. By the way, I found a stream of Vanishing Point, the movie 1971 that I was asked to watch. I will check that out. I have not checked out Heaven of Las Vegas by the Cocteau Twins. Let me loop it in with this, and let me get up on Shapongle. Thank you, Salito. You'll hear from me. All right, you'll be hearing from my people. Thank you. Thank you so much. So the door handle fell off the storm door out there, and now it's just banging against the house. So that's the life here. Reggie's scared. Hold on. Let me. Then we're gonna drive. Then we're gonna put this thing in drive. Okay.
He can't handle your speed, son.
All right. You're gonna have to get on that. Hey, Dad, you're gonna have to get on. Yeah, I got that. Dad's got that. I mean, will he successfully get that? That's always the debate. That really is. Oh, Run Dem Cheeks is back. Who has better questions here than Joe? Let's go. BC, it's 1969. The Beatles wait for the cops to leave and then come back on the rooftop. Dude, the rooftop concert by the Beatles has long been one of my favorite things in the history of music and one of the coolest things that's ever happened, especially because of the gap in touring, right? Where that moment happened in 69 and they essentially swore off touring in September of 66 completely. And with that show at Candlestick Park in San Francisco being the final one, because they not only were their songs becoming more difficult to perform live because of all the incredible studio innovations, but the crowds were still giving them 1964 Shea Stadium responses to where they're just being drowned out. But by the way, and I'm going to get to your question, Joe, my great colleague on Showbox, Barry Tompkins, right, Hall of Famer in his early 80s, still one of the finest people on this planet. His history of being in huge moments when it's mattered, not just as a boxing announcer, as a tennis announcer, being in Rocky IV, but I think he grew up with members of Jefferson Airplane. He lived in the same area of outside of San Francisco as Marty Balin on the same street. All right, this door thing is going to escalate here quickly. That Barry told me that he was not only at The Last Waltz, right, the band's final show filmed in San Francisco, the famous DVD, famous movie. He was not only there in the crowd for that he was at the final Beatles concert, right, short of the rooftop, the final one, September of 66 in San Francisco. That's insane to me. That's absolutely insane to me. He just drops that on me over dinner, Uncle Barry, love you, brother. Okay. So it's 69. The Beatles wait for the cops to leave, then come back on the rooftop, and they say, have time for 3 more songs, and we will take requests. Joe, this is one of the greatest questions you've ever submitted. What 3 songs do you request? So it's 69. They've yet to begin the Abbey Road album. They have recorded essentially the songs that would be on Let It Be, although that wouldn't come out until after Abbey Road, and maybe Phil Spector, the producer, ruined it by putting, too many of his wall of sound elements into it. Paul certainly felt so. But we know the debacle that through the Get Back documentary that was that recording, not just the big studio they rented that didn't have a homely feel. The fact that John was deep into heroin and barely able to help and barely there. The insane infighting between George and Paul that, I mean, I watched a behind the scenes documentary about the Beatles reunion in 95 and 96 for the anthology movie, book, and the 3, 2 double CDs that came out. And how much, when they got back to the studio and had that mini reunion, George, Paul, and Ringo, And the project was to take the 2 unfinished Beatles tracks that Yoko gave them from John, or 2 unfinished John tracks that would become new Beatles songs, Free as a Bird and whatever the other one, the other one. Okay. That it almost didn't happen so many times because George and Paul still, just from a working standpoint, hated the shit out of each other and couldn't get along. So we're in that era. But even though like the rooftop concert, it was a concert, but it wasn't, meaning they did some of the same songs like 3 times in a row just to like, I think they were going to put it to an album or make it the soundtrack of the movie that they were filming, the documentary. But those are awesome performances. In fact, 1 or 2 of those songs are actually on the Let It Be album. Like that's the performance they used. And that was a time coming off of their psychedelic turn, which was landmark with 1967's Sgt. Pepper's, and they'd really teased that. They'd really shown their hand on Revolver. Maybe their best album, right? I take Abbey Road above it, but it's close. There's some of the best early psychedelic work they've ever done is on the tail end of that album, meaning Revolver. But personally, even though they went away from psychedelic for the White Album, when they came back to Magical Mystery Tour and the Yellow Submarine soundtrack, I felt like they were lingering in psychedelia too long. And they went to a complete 180 stripped return for these sessions. So it's a different Beatles. It's not a jam band like, but it's the most jammy that they ever were. And certainly just a return to roots rock and roll in a lot of ways. But if I can pick 3 songs from that lineup at that time, given all of this, it's such a great question. I'm going to go While My Guitar Gently Weeps. And Billy Preston, I believe, was present for the rooftop concert. Billy Preston brought a really interesting dynamic to the tail end of the Beatles, not just for the fact that when he showed up, because of the respect everybody had for him as a virtuoso organ player, that they stopped divorcing in front of each other when he showed up. So it did bring a cohesive element. I think it also brought an extra layer to their musical ability. Imagine that group with Billy Preston live on the rooftop, really getting into While My Guitar Gently Weeps. Because think about it again, the history of them playing live is so small, meaning that from their launch, especially their launch in America, through them quitting touring in 66, there wasn't any panache to what they were doing. They couldn't even hear themselves play. They're just playing their songs back from the radio. They're just getting through. Their concerts were half hour long. They're just getting through it and getting out of there so they don't get trampled. And I know there's a lot of Magical Mystery Tour lovers out here. And I know when I turn on that album, which is every other time I hear it, I'm not saying it's not super elite, especially within the genre's history. I just think that's the worst version of them and the sound they produced in that. And I don't think the songs fully hold up. But back to this argument, back to this question. All right, so we're going While My Guitar Gently Weeps. I mean, I'm going to go back-to-back George songs here. And I am a George fan. At my senior prom, did I wear socks that featured a cartoon illustration of George Harrison on there? Yeah, I did that. Okay. I did. Did I grow my hair in my freshman year of college into this giant bush trying to look like George? Yeah, that happened too. So I'm going to go with one of the best George songs. It's very underrated. Or actually, is it not a George song? Really, it's the George solo I'm reaching for, and it's And Your Bird Can Sing off of Revolver. Is that a Paul song in theory? That is such a great. So it's written mainly by Lennon. Obviously, all Beatles songs that are not written by George or Ringo get the Lennon-McCartney treatment, the power duo there. But it's George's solo on that. I think he's using the Rickenbacker. That is just so quick, perfect, and really is the backbone of that song. So there's 2 right there. Imagine them executing a live version of A Day in the Life off of Sgt. Pepper. Yeah, that's it. That's it right there. My 3 songs could change tomorrow, but those are the 3 I'm giving you. Because that's the first thing you realize when you inevitably fall balls deep into the Beatles. Is like, oh, wait, there's not like this alternate live arsenal to look at. There's a rooftop concert was cool as shit, you know, but there really is no defining concert. There really isn't, you know, like there's defining moments at concerts, the 64 Shea Stadium show. By the way, my parents had one of their best friends that I knew growing up who had gone to that show. And I always used to talk to her with such reverence because she had experienced that. And the story was apparently that she had was walking around as a young teenager outside and somebody offered her an extra ticket and she went in. Imagine that. Still, those concerts were shit because of the crowd reaction. All right. You got me off track there, but I got my mind set on, great comeback, Cloud9, the album there by George in the late 80s. Right around the time Grateful Dead had that monster comeback with Touch of Grey. There was a resurgence there. Remember the Mamas and Papas got back together, Crosby, Stills, and Nash. It was like this old is new again type of experience. No, I will not. I will not. I do have an image to uphold, but thank you, Mr. C, for that. All right. Back to Sleeto. Dana White gives Jones an ultimatum, and thank you, Sleeto, for supporting this podcast. Make a decision to fight John in 2 weeks, or immediately be given another 6 months to make one. Yeah, that's the joke, and it's well delivered by you, but it's sad. It's really sad. It's really sad that for the success that this sport is having financially, that we can't have this. And it's not like, okay, well, Jones doesn't want it in the end if we don't get it. Okay, but I think you could have figured that out a year ago, 2 years ago, 5 years ago. Like I think you could have. Wow. BC is talking to him. So yeah, that's most of the show, the indescribable Octo Man. Sometimes I answer your questions too in between. All right. Is Mikey in here too? You know, I love that guy. I thought I just saw him in there. Has BC been hacked? What's going on? It might have happened. My brain gets rewired randomly. All right, back to Alan W. Any insider news on Errol Spence? I still like to see him against Boots at 154. Dude, I want to see him tomorrow. Like I don't. The only thing I hear, I think it's still like not a guarantee that he does come back. And I think that's both sad because I think he still had some left in the tank, but not sad if, you know, the demolition of that Crawford loss mixed with the two accidents, but you know, really the first one that just, I don't know how he ever came back from that. I don't know how he lived through that. But every time he talks, he says he is coming back, but it's just that it was never on the PBC's timeline. It never matched up with his timeline. And he always needed more time for injuries or for, I'm not finding a trainer because I'm being sued by Derek James for not paying him enough from the Crawford fight. With 54 so red hot, and with PBC having a plethora of those names, including aging names, from Jermell Charlo to, and I know they were former teammates, but from Jermell Charlo to Keith Thurman, it's tough. I think the time is now, if he is going to come back, if he wants to do it. And I think they could give him softish matchmaking to just have him back, but we got to see it. Is the name value still there? Yes. I think he needs to lose or look bad before it to really go. I think there's a lure in his comeback. I'd love to see him against Thurman. Let's go. Let's get the fight that we were always supposed to have, but now at 54 when they're older. Let's do it. And if he wins it, it's the nice comeback to bounce him to the future. But no, Alan, I don't have the inside, but every day that goes by, yes, it becomes less likely. Maybe there is a window to believe that all this time off helped him mentally and physically, and he could come back in a new weight class at a different type of level. Sure. But oh, okay. That is Mikey in the chat. Thank you, Mikey. Mikey's just messing with the chat. He is in there. Okay. I think he's in there, or did he just get hacked? BC is hacked, says the BC experience. We'll be posting the Hasselhoff video after the stream. Yes. Thank you. Are we hacked? No, I think that's the real Mikey. We love that guy. All right. By the way, Mikey's been on the comeback with these timestamps. I appreciate that. I always mean to go back and do that. And then, yeah, there we go. All right, I got to fix this front door, so let's take this thing home. People don't want to be trapped inside. MMA fanatic, thank you, fella. Can you give your perspective on these 3 Sergio Martinez fights? Paul Williams 2, Chavez Jr., Miguel Cotto. Yeah, absolutely. I love the career of Sergio Martinez. It coincides with my initial time covering fights. The first fight card I ever covered in 2011 was Sergio Martinez defending his middleweight title against Sergey Zinzaruk at the beloved MGM Foxwoods venue in Connecticut that no longer gets used for boxing, but it's so perfectly intimate with the crowd just on top of the ring. I wish they'd bring that back. It was a big stop for Lou DiBella back when he had more, I guess, skin in the game, bigger name fighters. Sergio Martinez obviously was his big one during this era. The second Paul Williams fight is just the most insane one-punch knockout you've ever seen for a guy that was not known as a puncher at 60 in Sergio Martinez. Or really ever, to be fair. Was always just like, I mean, his style is so fun to watch. A guy who didn't pick up boxing until age 19 or 20, which almost doesn't happen, right? Like Deontay Wilder did that and had a huge career, but he was like raw, unlimited. It's very rare when you see someone get to this level, but he had a very elite background from soccer to cycling in terms of just being athletic. And when he would get in that southpaw stance, lean on the front foot and be in punching range with his hands down, daring you to throw only so he can explode with really, really quick, hard counter shots, the timing right on the chin, then punches like the one he landed on Paul Williams were possible. But their first fight was this surprise gift to boxing fans. It was a very disputed decision that Paul Williams got the nod, but it could have been a draw. Maybe it should have been. And you know, it was a long string for Martinez of finally getting his head above water and getting into a big fight, but possibly getting screwed on the scorecards. Ever since Martinez first came on the scene, fought Tony Margarito for the welterweight title, got stopped. And then he moved to Spain and he just became a completely different fighter and became a force. And he did all this in his late 30s at a time when he was pound for pound number 3 behind a prime Manny and a prime Floyd, at a time where he so desperately wanted to get fights with either of them to show his greatness that as a former title holder at 54, who only moved up to 60 for opportunity, he's like, I could cut down to 50. I could do 150 pounds and a catch weight against either guy. And both guys were like, yeah, that's fine. We don't, the risk will not be worth the reward here. So the Paul Williams knockout kind of made him a star in a lot of ways. The first fight really firmly put him on the map. Yeah, he had been a title holder at 54, but he wasn't a household name. But fighting Paul Williams last minute on HBO, getting up from the canvas, knocking Paul down, and fighting with balls and a slugfest, it set the stage for their rematch. Also at Boardwalk Hall in Atlantic City. What was the first one in the tiny ballroom? This one in the big arena. And to deliver that bang and almost look like a fighter he isn't. He looked like a badass that could do that to anybody, right? It propelled him. And the run that he had at middleweight, beginning with the title upset there of Kelly Pavlik, putting the crown on his head. That's a historically tough out. Now, because of age and growing injury, particularly to the left leg, the knee there, Campion, the knee is not responding. It would be a slow decline while still on top. Like, we got close-ish fights against the names that he could get in there, but he couldn't get the names he really wanted. And then by the time new names popped up, particularly Golovkin, it just wasn't going to, we thought, go his way at that age to do it. But the Chavez fight was his big money fight. And it's also the fight that began his physical unraveling. And it's a fight that for 10 and a half rounds, he absolutely put on a virtuoso performance in September 2012, the Thomas and Mack Center in Las Vegas. The same night, it's Canelo versus Jose Cito on a loaded Showtime card that went head to head with real boxing competition back then, real competition. And for him to just dominate Chavez the way he did, just piss on him after such a build of hate. And it wasn't just hate between the two of them. There really wasn't a ton of hate between the two of them. It was almost just hate from how much the business was holding Sergio back, how he was getting, how like Chavez was being bumped up by the WBC to get all these opportunities that he probably hadn't earned because of his name. And when Martinez finally gets that fight, he delivers the performance of a lifetime, only to kind of tire a bit in the 11th round as Chavez finally woke out of his zombie walk and then nearly pulls off the greatest come from behind victory since not only Corrales Castillo, but since his old papa, Julio Sr. in 1990 did to Meldrick Taylor. It was almost a repeat. And it did sustain Chavez, even though it would also be his undoing, because that positive test for marijuana led to a crazy suspension and really just he completely unraveled. Martinez survived it, but that was really the beginning of his unraveling. He injured himself when he got knocked down in the 12th round. He got up and almost ill-advisedly went back to brawling with Chavez, and he survived the storm somehow, and he still got the win and looked like, I don't want to say a king, but he looked like, okay, the toughness, he prevented a huge collapse here. But what that did to his leg, and then he finally gets the homecoming fight against Matthew Macklin in Argentina, but at an outdoor stadium where there wasn't adequate security and he was almost crushed trying to walk to the ring as there was like not a path to walk. I mean, he was getting crushed, and it's in a pouring rainstorm with rain coming in sideways. He gets knocked down by Macklin, and I think to this day deserved to have lost that by decision, but got the decision, kept it alive. Only the knees, it's not what it was. It's shit. Should he have gone into the Cotto fight? Did they know that his knee was shit in hindsight? Were they, to some degree, maybe even cashing him out silently or just hoping for the best that the knee could hold up? Maybe yes, and yes, to be fair. Maybe, probably. It was a disappointment. I was so into Cotto moving up to middleweight, challenging Martinez for the title. This was a unforeseen resurgence from Cotto, who at 54, in the aftermath of the destructive stoppage loss to Margarito at welterweight, had looked good under Pedro Diaz, was boxing, was avoiding contact, but wasn't the Cotto of old. Well, now he moves up to middleweight with Freddie Roach, and he's going to the body like crazy, and he's a stalker, and he's a killer. Even with him moving up and challenging that against somebody like Martinez, I cannot even tell you how excited I was for that fight. I think it was, June or July of 2014. I saved everything from that weekend, t-shirt, everything, magazine, everything you can get. And then the fight was this odd dud. And the fight was so exciting in round one. Obviously, in Madison Square Garden, Cotto has a history at any point in his career of drawing huge crowds and creating electric atmospheres. And unfortunately, I was unable to be an MSG for some of the recent huge Puerto Rican star moments where they say the crowd was insane, like Trinidad versus Joppy, like Trinidad Mayorga, like Cotto versus not only Zab Judah in 06, a fight I should have been at, but couldn't go at the last minute as a fan, even though Cousin Tim had box seats from the NHL that we could have, a private box, that would have been wild. But, Cotto's had a few of these in the Garden. I was lucky to be at the 2011 rematch with Tony Margarito. That was the greatest in-arena celebration, good time feel. People had drums. I mean, it was like a party in there. But I had missed the big ones for Cotto. This one could have been that, because when he knocked down Martinez, which was not due to his knee, the first knockdown, it was an equilibrium shot that effed Martinez up. Did the fall contribute to the further injury of the knee? Yes, it did. And did he get knocked down 2 more times in that first round? Yes. And the husk of him hung on as long as he could until the corner stopped it, mercifully late. And then that's the end of Sergio Martinez. Yes, he made a comeback in recent years, but very low profile, and he's very old. That electricity in round one when Cotto dropped him was among the greatest feels I've had at a boxing event. That crowd went ape shit for Cotto knocking down the middleweight champion. And it didn't sustain because it became a one-sided fight, but that round is something. You go back and watch the broadcast. The crowd is out of their freaking mind. So we got to see in the short window of a truly prime late 30s Sergio Martinez, who had been a no-name globetrotter, been screwed of his biggest opportunities, needed to move to Spain to reinvent himself, and then ends up the number 3 pound-for-pound fighter in the world, trying to get Mayweather and Pacquiao into fights. Did he duck Golovkin? Maybe. Yeah, kind of. But he was old as shit at that point. But what he was is his absolute prime. Paul Williams fight, the Zinzaruk fight, a few others right around there, the Darren Barker fight, those ones all around that window. A true legend. and somebody who, even though I argued against going into the Hall of Fame because the prime was so small, the super prime was so small, and I do feel like you need a line. On the flip side, he had Hall of Fame ability. I have no problem with him being there personally, and he was one of the best fighters to cover, even with the language barrier. Great heart, great person, it seemed. So there you go. All right. Let's take it on home. Great question there. MMA fanatic. Axe asks, is Scott Coker alive? Can I connect with him, or is he off the grid? I'm waiting for him to make a comeback in some form. I know he had announced after Bellator was sold to PFL that he was going to be helping out Gilbert Melendez with his regional California promotion. I don't know if that's still going on, but could that have been the guy that they could have called in the bullpen to come in and save PFL? Is it still the guy potentially that can do that? I don't know if there's the time, money, or even a window there. I don't know what Scott's up to. I've always gotten along well with Scott. And it was actually fun. That tail end of Bellator on Showtime, when CBS Sports really bought in and we were doing live Bellator weigh-in reactions on HQ and interviewing the fighters coming off the scales. That was a fun time. And Coker did the best with what he could and made some really interesting Grand Prix during that run. Look, when Coker's at his best and he's wheeling a deal and the media buys into what he's saying, they believe him, they cheer for him in a way. Has he hit all the perfect notes to sustain and survive? No, not always, but he's got a damn good reputation and a damn good track record across multiple promotions. Obviously, Strikeforce being the great one, but he did save Bellator and put him on a pretty incredible run when you're talking about that time on cable TV on the Paramount, or was it Spike still? When you're putting out Kimbo, you're putting out old Ken Shamrock, and you're getting 5 million people to tune in. That was not nothing during the tail end of when TV still really mattered pre-streaming. All right. Alan's done. He does love Reggie. Appreciate the support, Alan. Thank you so much. Let's take this home so I can fix this door here. Fantastic 2 hours with you guys. Really, I believe that. Ethan Taggart helping out the pod. Who you got, Berlanga or Sheeraz? I got Berlanga. I think he's a little too explosive, and Sheeraz sort of stands like a statue, but I don't fully trust him. That's a great thing to say. I don't fully trust Sheeraz. He can punch like shit at 60. But against Adames, against a slick guy who can not just survive, but can thrive and can take over the controls, the terms of the fight, we saw the limits there. And I don't think Sheeraz was aided by Turkey, that whole, yelling the scores to him and trying to fire him up. He's moving now not only to 68 without a tune-up, but going right in against Berlanga, who we're not really sure. I'll tell you this about Berlanga. He did show us something in the Canelo fight. I don't give him the world tour after a wide loss like that. And most of what he says is hyperbole at best, if not, sometimes it feels like delusional. But the kid can do some things, and he's confident. That knockout last time of what? Gonzalez? Was that the guy's name? I mean, that guy had been out for a while. It is what it is. It's round one. But he's got pop. I think he will win a big fight that people won't think he will. I don't think he'll ever be as good as that knockout streak. But I'm coming back to the point of I don't know who wins this fight. I don't. I could see the argument there for Berlanga, Ethan, as you put in there. Like, Sheeraz has a lot to prove in this fight. So does Berlanga, by the way, because if he loses this, then you're like, okay, is he just a name that can pop back up for big fights to sell the fan base, but he's going to lose? Or can he go into one of these big fights and hurt somebody? That's what we need to see. This could be that fight if Sheeraz is not fully ready for prime time. So I dig this, even though this doesn't look like the tickets are moving. Tough venue, only used for tennis, not easy to get to within New York City and comparative to other areas. Is Turkey even marketing? You know what I mean? Like, there's this. I don't think this one has a lot of buzz going with it, but I like these two fights. Of course, the Zepeda Shakur Stevenson fight being the other one. Yeah, I don't know who's going to win. I would probably I might lean Berlanga like you. I'm interested actually right now to see the odds on this one. It's one of those where I'm not really sure what Vegas is thinking here. Berlanga minus 135 on DraftKings, plus 105 Sheeraz. That's about right. That's about it right there. Thank you. Brody, do you think Dana White put a hex on Ben? No, let's not talk like that. Ever since he came to the UFC, he's had horrible luck. Looks like, I hope he doesn't die. God bless that. I hope, praying for him like everybody else, fighting for his life in the hospital. And it's sad for a guy his age. Forget whatever you liked him or didn't like him as a fighter or anything like that. No. And I'm glad he did get, even, we can always debate whether that trade worked for either side or did it work for both sides. No, I think it was lopsided in the end, but Ben made an impact in his short run, and he had balls. All right. He had balls, and I hope he makes it through this. Saul from Louisville, we appreciate that because we appreciate you. Thank you, brother. BCEO, EO, damn right. Okay. That's what I'm talking about. I mean, things a little rough start in Texas. Am I wrong? Yeah. March of 34. Thoughts on Vince McMahon trying to buy into BKFC? I have seen those rumors. I don't think it appears it didn't go like he thought, but I know that Vince is arming up, and he sold a shit ton of TKO stock recently, and he's manning up for one big run at something. That would have been interesting if he could have got involved in that. Maybe keep the matchmaking to Feldman and Connor, but how could Vince present that in a Vince way? Look, BKFC has this weird untapped potential still in it. Like, it's actually up and coming and still hasn't hit its ceiling. I would have been interested in seeing what VKM could do there, even though he has deplorable human elements to him, as we all do, but not as bad as that, right? I hear other things other things he's interested or could be involved in. I want to see where he uses that money, where that goes, where that experience and expertise go right there. I'd like to. I mean, it would be insane if he ever bought back WWE, which was a rumor for a bit when the fans were really upset at the TKO direction, even though it's been said Vince doesn't have that much money. What he's got going on there. Bobby X, LOL, Vince and I got something brewing. What's going on here, Axe? All right. What's going on here? Mr. C, channel your inner Tim Allen and go fix that damn door. Yeah, I'm going to have to do it very shortly because, being the man of the house, if you don't got those man skills, you fake it till you break it. Fake it until you break it. That's really what I do. Mr. C, is Ted Nugent the Mayweather of rock? No, he's not. But I respect his craft. I respect his work on the guitar. Yeah, he's a wild man, though. He's definitely a wild man. Brody, Magical Mystery Tour was such. I mean, it is and it isn't. It is and it isn't. I'm going to say it. My wife randomly bought it for me on vinyl, like for a holiday one time. And so I've got a really good version of it, brand new. And I can put on the headphones and I can get into the genre. And there's certain tracks on there that I certainly love. The flying instrumental jam is something that they almost never do. That's awesome. The title track is. They went too hard, in my opinion, down the I Am the Walrus road, Strawberry Fields Road, Penny Lane. I just think it's of their elite work. It's by far the most dated. And I don't think Psychedelic Rock is dated unless it's sort of heavily cheesed up or heavily produced up. And it's like, it's the same. I mean, it's not too dissimilar to the issues at times I have with Sgt. Pepper. Yes, there's times I listen to Sgt. Pepper and I'm like, this is one of the greatest albums of all time. But no, I don't think anyone that wasn't living in that era can fully understand the gravity of what Sgt. Pepper's was at the time that it hit, you don't understand what changes that made unless you were there, in my opinion. And I think that it's led to some overrating of that record. Not as it's a way better record than Magical Mystery Tour in my eyes. But of the super elite Beatles stuff, the worst one's Magical Mystery Tour. Kill me. It is. Hey, Brantendo is a guy we enjoy in these parts here. Appreciate you. Still on a 90s binge. Realized I resonate with films set in LA. Oh, man, I love LA. I mean, I'm actually the same way. When there's movies set in LA, I'm with you. I kind of get fired up in that. White Men Can't Jump is one of the better LA movies of all time, of using the city as its. The Dude is actually how I like to live my life, but with a job. Yeah, well said there. Any cool 90s films that take place where you are from? Do you consider Sleepers to be a cool movie with Kevin Bacon and a few other names we know? Yes, it's a movie about child predator youth jail guards raping troubled kids, and then those troubled kids evolving into borderline criminals and seeking revenge. It's a gnarly ass movie that's tough to watch the first time. And it's one of those that you're sort of like, is there a second watch in this? I ultimately think there is, because I think there's some really good performances in there, including Robert De Niro as the priest, who sort of put in the juxtaposition of, if I break the law, but it's the right moral move to do, am I justified under God? Interesting stuff there. They did film one part of that scene in my hometown of Naugatuck, Connecticut. So for some odd reason, when I first saw that movie in 95, and it was very powerful and disturbing, but also well acted for sure, Brad Pitt in that as well, then I realized, oh shit, my town. So the scene where they go to arrest the former security guard at his apartment is shot at a little condo complex in Naugatuck, Connecticut, randomly. The rest of the movie shot all over the place. But that is one of those weird sort of like, why? I don't know, but it happened. There was a few movies in the 80s filmed not far from me. I think the reference you always hear me make is in the early 2000s when War of the Worlds with Tom Cruise was shot, the final extended scene in the old factory town, in the old factories in my hometown that were then at that point, broken down and abandoned. And documentary number 7 of the Morning Combat documentary series does take you there to see that. It was a big deal back then for the hometown. It was. I remember that shit. Everybody came running into the barbershop. I just saw Tom Cruise. He waved to us. All right. Did he have a Scientology booklet? Did he ruin Katie Holmes? These are things we can talk about. Okay. Thank you, Brantendo. All right. We got 2 more and we're out of here. Appreciate you guys today as well as always. Jay, thank you very much. Friday night, 1995, assuming you're in high school. Yeah, I was a junior for the first half of 1995. The second half was the beginning of my senior year. And I'll say 1995 will stand up in the history as one of the favorite years of my life. I don't know why I think like this, but if you're like, yo, BC, what were the best years of your life? I'm like 1987, 1995. And then, most of the last decade. All right. All right. 95 was a great year. Okay. It really was. Headed to the keg party that the whole school is going to be. What's your outfit for the night? That's a great question, because that's, the end of junior year where I kind of put my, I guess, dressing skills to, evolve them. I was, that was prime preppy J. Crew era, right? You know what I'm saying? Roll neck sweater era. But what would be the go-to BC outfit in that stretch? It would be a pair of jeans. It would be Nike canvas sneakers. You remember they had that run in the mid 90s where they put out those like lifestyle shoes? I had the all black with the white. I had the tan with the blue swoosh, and low socks. Maybe even a lame ankle bracelet, maybe possibly with a yin yang sign on it. I know. Then I would have a gray t-shirt, maybe one that said Banana Republic on it, and then a checkered, like, button up, unbuttoned, no chain or anything lame like that. I mean, just the damn, probably a couple man bracelets. I mean, who wouldn't? And then the white college hat from the Game, the company that made those. So the original Game ones were the ones with the circle logo and the school name on the bottom. I had one of those. My sister's boyfriend gave me the University of Texas one, but I came to fame like anyone at that time with the white ones that would say the school nickname with the bars, and then you'd have the school name below it. So, the reject or the class clowns would get the Cox one for University of South Carolina. How many people had that? I mean, how many people had that in my school is just ridiculous. I had the Buffs University of Colorado one, but I would get like creative with it where I'd take out the little tiny sewing scissors and remove the threads of certain parts of it, like people would do with the Cox hat where they take off the S and it would just say cock. You might sound ridiculous now, but that was probably one of the biggest things you could do in 1995. But I had the Xavier X-Men hat, which I also removed the bars. And then a girl in my school sewed in my nickname on the side of it, Soup. So I really thought I had something going on there, to be fair with you. The hat was the centerpiece of the 95 outfit. Okay. It really was. There's no question about it. This got weird, but I did answer the question straight up. Finally, Finally, Brody, BC, what are your thoughts on bands like the Joy Division and the Smiths? The UK had some great bands, man. They did. I'm very underserved on, I guess, the extended new wave run. And I do think there's divisions within new wave. I've talked about it recently. You know, a lot of people don't even call it new wave anymore. It's sort of like that early alternative rock one. I'm certainly more REM and Replacements than I am The Cure, Joy Division, the Smiths, Morrissey, but certain songs, yes, I'm into. Oh, somebody gave me at the London live show a Depeche Mode record, which was awesome. And I've been getting into that a little bit, but still underserved in this genre. Still not one of my favorite genres on the surface, but will there be a time? Like, you know, I don't give the Police a big run. In fact, I sold more Police records than I've purchased. But at some point, I'm going to stumble into the damn Police and finally want to get it and love it. It's a little bit different than these two bands, but that's where I'm at on 80s music. All right. You guys have been great. Thank you. Thank you for your service. Would have gone longer today, but the store's not going to fix itself. Okay. I got man problems. I got to go take care of them. So tip your waitresses. Thank you for playing. All of your, super chats are much appreciated in these parts. Be back next week. Hopefully we're going to get inside the box and hit you up with a ramble, get some extended other things going on, some interviews. I got to get Mark Ramundi on the horn right here. I got to get Ben Davis on the horn. We got to talk right here, okay? I'm going to set up that interview too. Anyway, this is B Sizzle telling you to, excuse me for the belch, take care of yourself up here, okay? Come on. It's that time. Get serious about it. It's holding you back in more ways than you realize. It is. It really is. Relationship wise, financially, your commitment to staying healthy. Let's get it right. Don't lose your weirdness. Save the weirdness. That makes you unique. Those are God's stamps on you. All right. Don't be a menace to your own society, though. Okay. I'm BC and I support this message. We're out. Thank you very much. Maybe we'll close with the greatest outro I think that they have in podcast history. Too legit. You got to quit. There we go. Hey, right? We gonna pray just to make it today, right? Right?